Hello again. I've spoken a number of times of the efforts of left-wing types to sabotage any kind of control on immigration to Britain, allowing anyone at all to enter the country and then once they're settled here to send for their wives and children. This is one front in the war on Britain being waged from within. These people are, to use a metaphor, opening the gates of the besieged city so that the enemy may enter and occupy it. This process is being conducted so openly that anybody who is prepared to look with an open mind at the situation can easily see what is going on. Every time you see a sign saying refugees welcome here, you know that the enemy within are up to their tricks. When some charity pays for expensive lawyers to challenge the deportation of illegal immigrants, we can see the same gang at work. These people are the public face of treachery, the ones who are quite open about what they are doing. They make no bones about it. Because so many of them are academics and educated people, this makes their behaviour so much the worse. They are not gulls or dupes. They know exactly what they are doing to the country, and their guilt is accordingly very great. The attack on the Spanish border about which I spoke this morning is part of this process. Knowing that they have these allies within Europe, these people try to force their way into our countries. There is another part of the attack on Britain and its society, though, and this is the erosion of our indigenous culture. I say erosion, but that's the wrong word really. Erosion suggests a slow and gradual, gentle process, whereas the attacks on British culture at the moment are being carried out with all the enthusiasm of a gang of mad hooligans armed with hammers and chainsaws. We've seen the removal of statues and renaming of streets with historical associations, but it is in the educational system that this activity is most virulent and dangerous because it is targeting vulnerable children. Sometimes this is a distortion rewriting of history. For example, children are taught that the West Indians on the Empire Windrush were invited to this country to help rebuild it after the war. This is a lie. They were opportunistic chancers looking for a better life. At other times, children are told that black people were living in Britain at the time of the Romans. This too is a deliberate and calculated lie. The object here is to make children think that this country has always been ethnically diverse, with black people being present for thousands of years, which is not true. The latest of these attempts to get rid of British culture is being carried out by the OCR Examination Board in their qualifications for GCSE English Literature. The O and C in OCR, by the way, stands for Oxford and Cambridge Universities, so both are complicit in this. The reason we get children to study English literature is so they gain an understanding about what good literature is. That is to say, how English can be used to best effect in the writing of novels and poetry and so on. That is why we use old writing, because it has lasted the test of time. Over 200 years later, we still love Keats and Jane Austen, because generations of critics and ordinary people are still buying their stuff and love reading it. The aim of studying English literature has never been to advance a particular political standpoint or ideology. The OCR board, though, are now ditching Keats and Wilfred Owen because they want more diverse writing for children to study. Never mind if it's good literature or worth reading, the main thing is that it must be diverse so that black children feel better about themselves. Then too, have you noticed that when you were doing English at school, none of the authors whom you studied were of Ukrainian heritage? Shocking. This won't do for the modern world because we must all admire plucky little Ukraine, of course. When we read in the blog of the OCR board the following, everything is laid bare. By the by, I give a link to the blog which is contained in this passage in the description to this video. Our anthology for GCSE English literature students will feature many poets that have never been on a GCSE syllabus before and represent diverse voices, from living poets of British Somali, British Guyanese and Ukrainian heritage to one of the first black women in 19th century America to publish a novel. Of the 15 poets whose work has been added to GCSE English literature, 14 are poets of colour. 6 are black women, 1 is of South Asian heritage. Our new poets also include disabled and LGBTQ+ voices. The only possible reason for including a writer of Ukrainian heritage is political. It is propaganda. Did the black American woman write as well as Charles Dickens or Anthony Trollope? Of course not. She's a novelty term. It's not that she wrote very wonderful English. It is enough that she is black. I include a link to the OCR board blog so that you can read this for yourselves. Some of these new poets have only been published as lately as 2019. Hardly time enough to judge whether their poetry will stand the test of time. They're simply there for being black. We are being betrayed by those who should be the guardians of our culture and heritage. This is all of a piece with the treachery of those who are forcing us to accept immigration on a scale never before seen in this country's history.